Okay then, here we are. This is Crown Square. This is the most important part of Edinburgh Castle because it's here that we keep the Scottish crown jewels. But in the centuries gone past, in times of trouble, the kings and queens of Scotland, they would come here to be safe. This was the safest castle in Scotland. This was the safest place in the kingdom. The first building in the square, huge building over here, and this is the Scottish National War Memorial. This is built on the site of a medieval church, but they opened this in 1927 to commemorate all the Scottish soldiers who were killed in the First World War, 1914 to 1918. And even today, any Scottish soldier killed in active service anywhere around the world, their names are still being added to the books, and that's within the Hall of Remembrance. That's the newest building in the square. This is the oldest building in the square. And this is the Great Hall, or the Banqueting Hall. King James IV had this built, and he also had the Great Hall at Stirling Castle built. That was in 1503 to celebrate his marriage to Margaret Tudor. And Margaret Tudor, she was the eldest sister of King Henry VIII of England. And at this time, this is a marriage of convenience. This is when Scotland and England, they're trying to be friends. And even on the pipes, you can see thistles and you see roses. Rose for England and the thistle for Scotland. But we're going to jump to 1650. Oliver Cromwell, he was an English general. He invaded Scotland. He used Edinburgh Castle. This was his military base. He turned this into the barracks for the soldiers. And it more or less stayed that way right up to the late 19th century. When no longer required as the barracks, the Victorians thought, let's get everything out, see what's left of the original building. And luckily, the huge oak hammer beam ceiling was, and still is today, in perfect condition. These huge oak beams, they're over 500 years old, and there's no screws, no nails, no metal. These are perfect joints, hammered together, and they are held with huge wooden pegs. The ceiling was built by the shipbuilders from the port here in Edinburgh, and it is the hull of a ship, and it's upside down. So that's well worth a walk in, well worth a picture. Next building over here, and this is the Royal Palace. This has been home to the Scottish Crown Jewels for over 400 years. But you see in the clock tower, and that tells us 1993, that's the year Her Majesty the Queen opened the new Crown Jewel exhibition. Everything that happens in Edinburgh Castle, it gets a date, because eventually this will be part of Edinburgh Castle's history. Small door here to the right-hand side, and you see up above 1566. That leads to the bedchamber of Mary, Queen of Scots. And in the far right-hand corner of the chamber, you'll see the birthing room. This is where she gave birth to her son, King James VI of Scotland. And he was crowned King James I of England in 1603 on the death of Queen Elizabeth I. But the most important door in the square, central doorway under the clock tower, this leads to the honours of Scotland and to the Stone of Destiny. You're going to see a huge glass case, and inside the case we've got the crown, the sword and the sceptre. The new crown, that was made by the order of King James V, and that was in 1540. Now James V, he was the father of Mary, Queen of Scots. She indeed was the first monarch to be crowned using her father's new crown. That was in 1543. Mary was crowned Queen of Scotland. She was 9 months old. You'll see the sceptre, the gold and silver sceptre. This was the power, it was the authority of the kings of Scotland. And it was a gift to King James IV from Pope Alexander VI, and that was 1494. You'll see the Sword of State, also a papal gift to King James IV from Pope Julius II, 1507. Now Julius, he was known as the warrior pope, but he was the pope who commissioned Michelangelo to paint the ceiling in the Sistine Chapel in Rome. But the most important thing you will see in the glass case, and indeed Edinburgh Castle this afternoon, is a huge block of sandstone. Known to us Scots, it's a stone of Scone. More commonly known, it's a stone of destiny. This is our ancient Scottish coronation stone. The very first King of Scotland, he was called Kenneth MacAlpin. He was crowned sitting on the stone in the year 843. That was 1,170 years ago. But in 1296, King Edward I of England, Edward Longshanks, he was the hammer of the Scots. He invaded Scotland. He took the stone. This was his war prize. This was his trophy. He took the stone down to London, down to Westminster Abbey. He had a coronation chair built in the Abbey. The stone placed into the chair, that was his insult to the Scots. The King of England now sits upon the coronation stone of Scotland, but it stayed in the chair at Westminster Abbey for 700 years. And in 1996, Her Majesty the Queen declared it should come back to Scotland. It is a Scottish relic. So on our patron saint's day, St Andrew's Day 1996, the stone came back to Scotland, to Edinburgh Castle. However, for any future coronation, that stone still goes back to Westminster. It still goes back into the chair. No monarch can be crowned king or queen of the United Kingdom without this stone being in the chair at Westminster Abbey. Only this time, after the coronation, there will be trouble. Yeah, if that stone does not come back quicker than the last 700 years. One day in the future back home, you may switch on your television set. There's possibly Prince Charles being crowned king. On that day, you will see that stone in the chair at Westminster Abbey. And on that day, I hope you will remember that you were this close to the stone here in Edinburgh Castle. As I've said, each of the buildings you visit, inside, stewards like myself, and we're all here to help in any way we can answer any questions you may have. Thank you for taking the time to walk through the castle with me this afternoon. It's now your turn to go and explore. Go inside, have fun. Thank you for your company, folks. Thank you.